Hello and welcome. My name is Lola, and on this channel we're talking about learning English as a second language. And this video is gonna be about pregnancy vocabulary. See, I had a really good meal today, really nice lunch. So I decided while I'm having this nice post-lunch feeling, why don't I talk about how if I was pregnant, you know? What a hilarious joke. In fact, this video is not only for people who's going to be pregnant or who's pregnant. It's for everybody who's learning English but wants to be able to communicate with person who's pregnant. Because English as a foreign language is such a wide topic. There's so many words, and it's okay to be fluent in English, but do not know some specific words, and myself included. I know a lot of English words, but most of those words I've learned only after lunch, before lunch. I mean, you got me. Funny enough, myself being first time pregnant, I didn't know most of that vocabulary, so I thought it's like pregnancy, after pregnancy, but actually we have special terminology. So while you're pregnant, everything is prenatal. Prenatal, and notice how T becomes fast, flap T as we call it, prenatal. Prenatal. So we would have like prenatal vitamins, and we go to prenatal classes, and you know, everything that is happening before the birth is prenatal. Prenatal checkups, whatever, you name it. And after the birth, you would say, well, it should be postnatal, right? Like prenatal, but no, it's postpartum, which is hilarious. Once again, I thought it's before or during pregnancy, after pregnancy. No, it's prenatal and postpartum. Once again, this T becomes flap T sound, which is T, D, and R in between. Postpartum. Postpartum. So you're parting with your fetus becomes a baby, and you start your postpartum period. So the day, that magical day that separates prenatal from postpartum, you would say it's the day when you give birth. And it's correct, but actually it has a name, and when you're asking somebody, like when is it? Like when are we expecting? We're asking about the due date. Yeah, when is your due date? That's the correct way to ask. Oh, when are you due, you know? It's funny, it's like, who's on due date today? That's my due date. You could say, Jennifer has a due date in March, so we want to finish all our projects by February, so she has a month before to prepare. That's what I thought I was gonna have. This is a little confession. I said to myself, no, and now what? We're recording YouTube. So now the act of giving birth, which is, yeah, we could say like the act of giving birth, kind of complicated, we call labor. So when you're in labor, you're giving birth. Like woman in labor, it means like, oh, she's in labor. It's like, everybody, I mean, in bad comedies, everything is an exaggerated version of bad reality. It's like, oh my God, my water broke. Oh, she's in labor. We don't wish that to you or to your friend or to your mother, father, whoever. Father, ooh, that would be nice if your father is in labor. And it's funny because labor, I'm sure you know this word, labor, if you've learned English. I mean, actually, I've learned that word later. I think I've learned it after coming to the United States, to the United States. And labor means work, like physical work, physical labor. A practical work, especially when it involves or requires hard physical effort. We call it labor. We even have a holiday in the United States, Labor Day, you know, and I'm sure maybe in your country you have a version of that. In Russia, we also had like a Labor Day in May. What a coincidence. So anyways, and funny enough that we use the same term. So when a woman is giving birth, it's I mean, it takes effort. It takes physical effort, you know, her concentration, breathing, like focusing on everything that is happening with her body. So it's a labor. What a beautiful way to describe it. So when she's in labor, that means she's giving birth. Another verb which is related to pregnancy vocabulary and could be very surprising, because like my sister got surprised hearing it. When we give birth to a baby, we use the verb delivering. Like I'm delivering a baby. She delivered a baby. And I know, talking about delivery, we all think about DHL or FedEx, like, oh, please sign here. Here's your package. But we use the same verb talking about us women being in labor, and when we give birth, we're delivering a baby. So once again, labor is a noun, you know, she's in labor, and the verb, she's delivering a baby. You could use it in the sentence like, the doctor helped in delivering a baby safely. And even in the hospital, they have a delivery room, and guess what? We're not talking about packages, we're talking about kids and babies. So the room where you're giving birth when you're in labor is a delivery room, or somebody could say labor and delivery room. And if you are making a choice of delivering a baby in the hospital, you could tour the hospital and like, oh, can I see the delivery room? Nowadays, we go to see a doctor. And the name of that doctor is, guess what? OBGYN. I know, it sounds like it's straight out of Star Wars. It's OBGYN. So it's short for obstetrician gynecologist, but everybody uses the contraction OBGYN. She's my OBGYN. So it's a doctor who's specializing in pregnancy, childbirth, and reproductive system. So if you're in a foreign country and you know you're about to get pregnant, like we Lola recommend you finding your OBGYN. Because it sounds like Obi-Wan Kenobi from Star Wars, you know? That's so funny. Obi-Wan. You can find Obi-Wan. May the force be with you. Oh my God. So you could have your OBGYN, but also there are different type of medical personnel specifically at your childbirth, right? The one who's assisting you, and we call them midwives. Midwife is someone, a trained professional who's assisting you at the childbirth. Another person, and I've learned about that kind of professional just a few years ago. I think they became popular lately, at least in my, to my knowledge. Like, I think 10 years ago, nobody was talking about doulas. But doula is like your companion assistant. Let's say if you don't have a supporting partner, or maybe you do have, but partner makes a choice not to participate in it. Like usually it's a woman who's supporting a pregnant woman and comforts her, helps her to relax, to breathe. She knows a bit of psychology, a bit of midwifery. So doula is like a best friend for a woman who's in labor. And actually a lot of doulas, they help with postpartum. Sometimes they make some kind of a tinctures or special massages, or even some rituals, you know, like closing the birthing experience. There's a lot to learn. So after you give birth to a baby, he or she needs a pediatrician for newborns, which has specific name. It's a neonatologist. So neonatologist is a pediatrician specializing in the care of newborn. Sometimes people say specifically if the kid is ill or something, but sometimes people are just referring to that pediatrician who comes to see and assess that everything's okay, you know, if the baby needs help, or if the baby was born premature another good term, premature. I mean, hopefully you will never need it and use it. It's a baby who was born before the due date, right? Then definitely that baby will need a neonatologist. So now, couple words about the common pregnancy symptoms, and I could not include in this video morning sickness. And it's funny because it's called morning sickness, and as they say, surprise, surprise, it could come anytime, not only in the morning, but it still has a name, morning sickness, or feeling of nausea. It's funny that some dictionaries, they say that it's nausea, but honestly, I've heard only people saying nausea. Both pronunciations, I guess, acceptable. I only heard nausea in real life. I've never heard anybody say nausea. I guess somebody say, because the adjective is nauseous. It's different. It's a different sound. Anyways, nausea, if you're not familiar, you're familiar with the feeling, you just don't know the word, is when you're about to, like, you feel like you're about to throw up, but it's not about throwing up, it's not about vomiting, it's about like this feeling, like you, that's nausea. That's morning sickness. And another symptom, which sometimes we learn prior pregnancy, and some, I mean, I feel like, I don't know a woman who doesn't know what cramps are. So cramps are those nasty feelings we get when we have PMS, menstruation, whatever, like this kind of, I don't want to call them painful, it's painful kind of contractions. And cramps, they can occur any time during pregnancy. I mean, they can occur any time if you're not mature, if you're a woman. If you're a woman, you know what cramps are. And I didn't know this word. Once again, you know, I feel like vocabulary like that, real life vocabulary, real words that we actually need in life. We're not learning them in English class because we're not going to say, hey, let's learn cramps. I should make a video about women's period vocabulary. I feel like that's needed by the world. So if you want it, let me know in comments, please. Now talking about the birth, the act of giving birth, you could have a natural birth, or also is called vaginal birth, or you can have cesarean. I'm sure you've heard of that, which is shortly called C-section. For the first C, cesarean or C-section. It's like a surgical procedure when they cut you open and get the kid out. And actually, to my surprise, people very often, at least in Cyprus, they're like, oh, are you about to have a natural birth or like, or a C-section? Like, people would casually ask those things, which is interesting because I think it's like a personal, once again, choice for a woman. But I think those things are so common. We can discuss our opinions on that in another video. Let me know if you want to do that. I'll tell you everything what I think about that. But here we're talking about the vocabulary. So those two you just have to know. So once again, if you had a natural birth, you could say, Jessica had a natural birth at the birthing center. And we know that she gave traditional vaginal birth. Or you could say, Sarah, oh, she has a scheduled C-section in April. That we know that for whatever reason she decided, or her doctor convinced her, her OBGYN convinced her to have a surgical method of delivering her baby. Now a couple words about the feeding options. When your baby is born, you could choose to breastfeed, and everything that's related to that would be like breastfeeding, I don't know, tips and tricks, or breastfeeding top, or even breastfeeding supplements. Maybe you want to take some calcium or something like that. Or if you're not going to use your real milk, or your friend is not going to breastfeed, then we use the term formula feeding, you know? We use formula. We know by that she's not using her real milk, but the special formulated, whatever it is. It's formula feeding. Some parents, they choose formula because they unfortunately could not be with their kid or for whatever reasons. I think it's the most common vocabulary, that I want you to know. All right, that was it for today. Let me know in comments what other topics interest you. And if you want to practice the words that we've learned today, if you want to practice pronouncing them in the sentence and getting feedback from our AI on your pronunciation, go to Lola Speak app, because after YouTube video, we prepare a special practice pack for you, not only to watch this video, to practice right after, so your information can set in your mind, and when you need it, you know when to say toddler or neonatologist or OBGYN, because you're so cool. My name is Lola, and I'll see you next Friday.